Hey guys, it's Dru Hicks here. Make sure you like, comment, and share for your chance to win some free gear and some Recovered on Purpose gear as well.
On today's episode, we have recovery activist Dru Hicks here to share his story of addiction and prison to recovering and becoming one of the top recovery influencers on social media. I'm Adam Vibe Gunton, and this is the Recovered on Purpose show. The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live recovered on purpose. Today's episode is brought to you by Recovered on Purpose. Recovered on Purpose was founded with the vision of raising up an army of recovered addicts to tell their stories in powerful and impactful ways that will free others suffering from the bondage of addiction, as well as share their stories in the school system to deter the future generations from going down the path of addiction. If you are an addict in recovery and want to become part of this movement or possibly be interviewed for this show, go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact and tell me about yourself. All right, everyone. Today we have Dru Hicks here to share his story and a message of hope with us. Dru is a recovery influencer, advocate, and motivational speaker for those in recovery. He has amassed a following of over 200,000 people he speaks into daily. Dru travels the world sharing his story to inspire and give hope. This is the exact mission Recovered on Purpose wants to inspire people just like you watching to do. Dru, so excited to have you here, brother. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, brother. So what we like to do here is start off with the message of relation. So basically anybody out there suffering, we want them to know that we really get what it's like, even though where we're at right now with life, we want them to know what it was like to suffer. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what your addiction was like, what was going on in your life at that point, and really just what you would share about what it was like.
Oh, well, I'm no different than any other addict or alcoholic to struggle with this disease, brother, honestly. And I make sure my following knows that I am one of them. My addiction started at a pretty young age, 15, 16 years old, and it very quickly progressed into something that I wasn't prepared to ever have to deal with, honestly. I started IV drug use at the age of 17, and from the age of 17 to 42 years old, I was sticking a needle in my neck. That was my life, day in, day out. And between those years, between 17 and 42, I spent a lot of time in prison because of poor choices that drugs brought into my life. I don't justify my poor and bad behavior. I just know that, I was sick, just like anybody else. I experienced a lot of childhood trauma, sexual and physical abuse as a child, and I kind of used that. And later on in life, in my active addiction, I used that trauma as justification to stay a sick man. And so I was in active addiction for over 25 years, an IV drug user, 22 years of that, and I just refused to get better because I wanted to feel sorry for myself. That was the definition of Dru Hicks in active addiction was, oh, he's that guy over there feeling sorry for himself. He doesn't want to pick himself up. And I fell into that lie from the beginning. And where, drugs, a lot of brothers and sisters think the drugs were the problem in our life. And the honest truth was that we were the problem. The drugs are just a symptom of the disease that we carried in our brain. And so I used it, I used it as a crutch. I used it being an addict with a disease of addiction as a reason to stay a very miserable, toxic man.
Yeah. And you said two things there that I want to touch on real quick. The first thing is you started a drug addiction that you weren't prepared for. And the way that you put that was so perfect for this mission with Recovered on Purpose, because I had the same thing happen to me. I had no idea when I was starting to use drugs at that young age that it was going to lead me to being homeless, kicked out of a homeless shelter, and unable to stop sticking a needle in my arm. So when you're saying that you weren't prepared for it, how did it progress from, maybe it was like some kind of partying or some kind of fun at 15, 16, 17 to having like this full-fledged IV drug addiction?
Yeah, well, like I was just told you guys a minute ago. I started the needle relatively young in life. I graduated to the needle, so to speak, but I graduated pretty quickly. I started using cocaine at the age of 15, 16-ish, and it took me about a year before I was introduced to the needle. What I mean by I wasn't prepared for is that I thought it was going to be that quick fix for me. It was going to be, because I remember the euphoric feeling that I experienced the first time I did a line of cocaine. This is what I was looking for, man. This is, I didn't have to think about what I'd been through. I didn't have to feel the problems that I was experiencing in my life at that time. It was instant gratification. It was euphoric, and it just took, and yeah, it was a weekend thing when I first started, and then it turned into a 3-day thing, and then before you know it, it's an everyday thing, and it was just like any other addict. It progressed into something, a deep-rooted obsession that I wasn't prepared to deal with, bro. I didn't realize that obsession was going to be so deep-rooted, and it was going to control every aspect of my life, And at 17 years old, bro, I wasn't grown up yet. I was still relatively young. I hadn't even graduated high school yet, and it just stopped any kind of progression that my life had, that I had planned for my life. My mother and father instilled into me education, and going to college, and going and getting a degree. That was all planned for Dru, but that was all taken away from me because, as we know, this obsession is so deep rooted that it there's nothing else that you want but that craving of the next one, and the next one and the next one. And I never found what I was looking for, brother. I thought I could. I thought I was going to be the unique addict who was going to be the one who was going to find what he was looking for when it came to that needle. But I don't fall into uniqueness when it comes to the struggle or the blessings.
Right. And that was the other thing I was actually going to ask you, is about like a male role model at that time. But it seems like you had parents that had this trajectory for your life that were taking you the right way. So what kind of influence did you have at that early age to find the cocaine, to find the needle? What was going on? Because one of the things that I try to instill in basically everybody, whether you're in recovery, whether you're a teenager or whatever, is you are the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who was it that you were surrounding yourself with at that time at 15, 16?
Well, real quickly, I want to let everybody know that, I was adopted. Okay. I was adopted, and from birth until about the age of 10, I had experienced a lot of physical and sexual family that we're talking about right now. Okay. This is the family that instilled into me education and, goals. They were ideal. They surrounded me with love. They encouraged me. They were nurturing. They were everything that a parent should be for their child. They were that. Okay. But I had brought in, I was like anybody. I buried a lot of that pain. Right. And so at 15, when it came back, because I didn't really deal with it, you know what I'm saying? I never really handled it. I went to therapy, but I basically told the therapist what I thought he wanted to hear just so I could get out of the damn room. Okay. So, because I wasn't ever prepared to ever talk about that ever again. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I was just disgusted, and I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to talk about it. And so about 15, it came back. I started getting those memories of that abuse. I started, well, I'm not going to deal with this. And I was hanging out with some people whose older brothers were into that scene. Okay. And it just happened one day. I was at their house, and his older brother was there, and I happened to walk by his room, and he was doing a line of cocaine. I happened to see it, and I said, "What is that?" He's like, "Hey, you ever tried this?" And then that's basically how it got started, and I started saying, I'm dealing with some stuff, man. Is this hey, this will help you. Okay. He was very sick too. Got to understand, he was sick. When sick people are sick, they want you to be sick with them. Right. Yeah. So that's how it started for me, and then it's like, okay, this is it. I found what I'm looking for, and it was game on, brother.
Right. And one thing that I've been hearing a lot of different stories from a lot of different addicts, and myself, I personally didn't go through those kinds of traumas as a kid, but I think I went through a trauma when I was 19. My best friend called me at 4:47 in the morning. I had been out partying all night, and I woke up to his phone call. I remember having the conscious choice that I could answer it like a good friend, or I could answer it like a jerk. And I answered it like a jerk, and I ended up telling him not to call me this late, and I hung up on him, and he shot himself. And for eight years, I was literally unable to share that story with anyone. And after that event was the first time that I ever consciously used drugs to cope with the way that I was feeling, or to cope with life in general. So I think that one of the things that we need to normalize in recovery, and not just in recovery, but before people ever start using, is we need to normalize speaking about trauma. Like a lot of people think that they're going through this alone, right? Like did you feel like that you were maybe the only one that could have understood what you went through, or did you ever feel alone with your trauma?
Absolutely. During the physical and sexual abuse that I had experienced, I had my two brothers were right alongside me, but they didn't experience the sexual abuse. They experienced the physical abuse right alongside me. So, but the sexual abuse is really what hit me the most, because that's where I was the most ashamed, the most embarrassed, because my sexual abuse came at me at the hands of another woman. And so, it wasn't something that I was so young. I wasn't comfortable talking about it. And so I just buried it and didn't even address it with my other siblings, that experienced the physical abuse with me. And yeah, I absolutely felt alone. I felt, I was terrified because I was still relatively so young, but and just didn't feel like it was something that my other brothers wanted to ever have to relive themselves. And so I didn't want to burden them with that. And so I just kept it to myself, and my brothers, after the fact, when because we were all taken from that situation and placed into the Hicks family, who I live with, who I call mom and dad today, and so I didn't want to take away their healing to give them more of my BS, so to speak. And so I kept it in myself, and I absolutely did. I felt like even in the Hicks family, I felt like a complete outcast. And I felt like, I knew that I was the only person in that family because I'd also inherited an older brother and 3 older sisters. Okay, so, and addiction wasn't part of the Hicks family's upbringing. None of the children, none of my other siblings experienced. I'm the only addict in the family, the only person, who went through any kind of sexual abuse. So it was just, I was completely alone with this, and you're absolutely correct. It was very scary for a long time. I didn't feel like I was even comfortable in my own home.
So what was the point when you shared that trauma? How old were you? When did you actually begin to be open with it?
Recovery, brother. Is honestly, I went through, like I said, therapy after we were taken from that terrible situation. I went through therapy, never really truly addressed it with this therapist, hinted it around it, but never really came out with the words out of my mouth saying, yes, she sexually molested me, she did this, she did that. Never did anything like that. But 42 was the first time that I addressed it. When the age of 40, I kept it in all those years. Yeah, I didn't. The older I get, the more into a man I turn, and that's just not something men talk about. That's what the world says, anyways. But I'm not the guy that says that today. I'm really transparent on my live videos, and I try to reach men and to address that. We've been through some stuff like that. That's real. That's real, and more often than not, a lot of the men who choose to watch my videos and follow me have been through this, but they're scared to death, like I was, to talk about it because it's embarrassing. Society has deemed men have to be tough, right? We can't show emotion, and that's kind of disgusting when you think about it, because men and women, women might be in touch more with their feelings, but that's a lot of the reason why a lot of men in the world struggle the way they do, because of fear of not being that tough guy.
Right. I love that. So if someone out there had one of these secrets, one of these things that they haven't told anyone, maybe they're still suffering, or maybe they're not even an addict, but they're watching this. What would you tell them to find that strength so that they don't have to wait until a point where they're really dark? And what would you tell them right now? And who would you tell them to tell this secret to?
That's a great question, brother. If they can't get to me, I would definitely suggest, if they're in recovery. I mean, it depends if they're in recovery or not. It depends. And honestly, I would tell anybody any man this, I would, is that, the longer you sit with it, the more disgusting with yourself you'll get, and the more often, and there's a bigger chance that you're going to start putting some stuff in your body to address it, because I always believed that the drugs were my solution to that trauma. That was my solution. I found a solution at the end of a needle. Okay. So to avoid potential pitfalls, because we all know the disease that we carry in our brain is deadly, and so to avoid anything potentially happening to such person, the person I'm talking to, I would absolutely ask them. They can definitely reach out to me, because I talk to men all over the world today about sexual trauma, sexual abuse. It's not comfortable. I would tell them immediately, what you're going to tell me, or what you're going to tell the person that you're going to tell this to, is going to be anything but comfortable. But the longer that you sit around with it and you stew with it, the more disgusting with yourself you're going to be. And when we start getting disgusting with ourselves as humans, we hurt ourselves. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. And you know, it's damaging to the core. And I'm just so disgusted with how the world deems us men. We can't talk about our feelings and emotion and our trauma, you know?
Right. Yeah, I do want to say it took me 8 years to share that phone call with anyone. And whenever I would share about, because obviously my best friend killed himself, so I had to have some kind of story. I literally felt like I had to lie about what happened in order to hide what really happened. And guys, this literally drove my addiction. I had to have all these secrets, and then as I'm using all these drugs, there's coming more and more things that are happening in my life to make me use over. And I ended up telling somebody about that. Like one special friend, I ended up telling them what actually happened. And then after that, there was almost like a snowball effect. Then it became part of my power, part of the story that of overcoming that. And after I shared that story with someone, that actually started my journey to being able to actually recover. It still took me about 12 months to get fully clean and sober. But sharing that was a pivotal point. And guys, we have been talking about trauma. We've been talking about kind of what leads into addiction. And guys, after the break, we're going to talk to Dru about how he's built this massive following. And we're going to talk about his new gear. And guys, we will be giving away some Recovered on Purpose shirts. Show him your shirt, brother. We'll be giving away a couple of his new shirts. And you don't want to miss this. We'll see you in a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Recovered on Purpose. If you want to become part of this mission or you want to tell your story on the show, go to recoveredonpurpose.com/contact and tell me a little bit about yourself. And guys, if you want a chance to win, I am Recovered on Purpose shirt, and on the back it says, the shirt on my back for the addict in need. Like, comment, and share this video. Dru is also giving away I'm on God's Time shirts. He's going to give away 3. I'm going to give away 3 of these. Like, comment, share for your chance to win. Back to the show. All right, guys, welcome back. So before the break, we were talking a lot about trauma and kind of what led into addiction. And guys, as you know, this show is unscripted, so we just really let the Spirit drive us for you guys and what needs to be talked about. So we've been talking about trauma and needing to normalize this. And during the break, Dru actually said something that I really want him to expound on for you guys. So Dru, what was that quote that you said to me, and what does it mean to you?
Dude, it really means everything to me. I mean, I first said it, or first thought about it, first put it together when I was doing some step work with my sponsor. We were working through some of the trauma that I experienced as a kid, and he said, you know, the trauma may have not been your fault, but the healing will forever and always be your responsibility.
Wow.
And that says it all. You know, I didn't ask for that to happen to me. But in order for me to get where it is I need to get in my own personal life, it's going to be my job to heal from it, because ain't nobody going to come over here and do this for me.
Right. So tell me a little bit about how you actually have healed from that trauma. I know that there's sharing that happened with it. There's speaking it out and that kind of stuff. But what kind of work has happened in order to heal from those childhood traumas?
Yeah, I'm a product of good therapists. You know, honestly, I mean, I highly suggest if anybody's been through some sexual trauma, such as we've been speaking on, that therapy for me was a must. I needed to be able to talk to a professional about this, and not just simply talk to my sponsor. You know, and me and my sponsor addressed this before I started going through therapy. So therapy, I am a product of an amazing therapist, and also an amazing higher power. You know, God is big influence in my life today, and I loudly and proudly say that just about in every live video that I do. I've used God as an outlet, you know, to help that healing. You know, I've gotten into the scripture with my pastor, you know, and just my faith is really truly what has led me into my biggest part of the healing. Okay. And I have to stand on that, you know, and I have to believe that my faith in God and the program that I work in my life today is going to continuously progress my life away from the flames.
Yeah, I love that so much. And that's honestly my keystone for everything that I've done in recovery has been my faith. This literally where I'm at right now. I always wanted to get to a point where I could share my story to help other people. I've always wanted to get to this point, but in and of myself, I wasn't ever able to actually believe in myself, to be honest with you, because it had to change to where I believed that God believed in me. So Dru, once you healed from that, and I know the healing is continual, tell us a little bit about why it is that you do what you do, how it kind of started, and how it's progressed to where it is now.
Brother, I had a dream. I'm also a product of sober living. I didn't go to treatment. I got clean through drug court and sober living. And I just remember sitting on the front porch of the sober living house that I was at one morning and thinking to myself, I want to help. Okay, I think in early recovery, we all get a fire for life and fire for wanting to help people. But I just couldn't get away from the thought. It turned into a day after thing for me. I remember though one morning out there drinking my coffee on the front porch of the sober living house thing, I'm going to do something. And I know this is an action. This life that I'm living now, application has to be applied. And so I created a group on social media called Clean and Sober, That's What's Up. And which was inspired to me by my little girl. My little girl would call me first 2-3 weeks I was in sober living and say, Daddy, are you still clean and sober? And I would say, yes, baby, of course. And she goes, that's what's up. So awesome. Clean and Sober, That's What's Up. It's inspired from my little girl, Chloe. And together we created the title. And I just started building this platform, my group. And then I, of course, branched over to public figure page and a Clean and Sober, That's What's Up page. And I have 3 platforms on social media.
Yeah, go ahead and plug those.
Yeah, I have a group called Clean and Sober, That's What's Up. I also have a page called Clean and Sober, That's What's Up. And I have a public figure page called Dru Hicks.
And I see you going live on there all the time. What are these live videos for? And what times are you doing them and stuff? Where can people find you?
Typically, I do my live videos from my public figure page in the mornings between 9:15-ish Eastern Standard Time. And then if I do a video in the evening, it'll be around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the reason why I do these videos is because I think as brothers and sisters, especially early recovery, and given the situation that the country is in with the pandemic and around the world, I think there needs to be that extra push, because I remember when I needed somebody who just like me. I remember that vividly, needing somebody like Dru Hicks. I needed to be told about myself. I needed there to be some accountability, because if you watch my videos, brother, I'm not over here to spoon feed you or coddle you. I'm going to love you and encourage you, but I'm going to kick you in your ass, because that's exactly what an addict and alcoholic needs, but I'm going to wrap my arms around you and love, and you're going to know I love you. And that's why I I've been doing live videos for probably better part of 3 years now. And in the beginning, brother, I was a mess. My message was all over the place, but today my message has turned into something really powerful. It's been able to reach people all over the world today. And I got some really loyal, I like to call them family members, because I don't like that word follower. That's a Facebook word, but it's family all over the world, who looks to these, because I have people from all over the different countries who reach out to me, say, we have get-togethers to watch your videos, because at 9:15 in the morning, it might be like 1 p.m. in New Zealand, so they have get-togethers in their communities just to watch my videos. And because they've made that big of an impact on their lives, and it continues to, and I think, recovery has shown me my purpose in life. It's given me a voice, and I intend to utilize it. And now with God in my life, he's always in my ear saying, you're doing what I want you to do, and you're stepping into your purpose. So this is why I do what I do. Plus, I love addicts and alcoholics, brother. I've been through it. I've been to the lowest of the low. I used to draw, my dope up in dirty gasoline water off the side of the road, because I was jonesing so bad I couldn't make it to the gas station. I remember, being homeless. I remember not having anything. I remember I lost custody of my children in my active addiction, because of my kids. And I say this a lot, and it sometimes still pains me to say it, but it's the truth. And I pride myself on being transparent. My kids were never enough to get me clean and sober. Never. My mom would tell me, if you can't do it for you, Dru, do it for your children. And they were never enough to get clean and sober, but they're every reason to stay that way today. Now that I knew I had to be willing. Willingness it's and a lot of brothers and sisters don't realize this because you hear it all the time. They gotta want it. Addicts, they gotta want it. They gotta want it. That's not true. They gotta have the willingness before the want. Because I didn't necessarily know what I wanted when I came into recovery. I just knew I had to be willing, and I was. I figured out after the fact how much I truly wanted it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And that's something that I've noticed in recovery also with different people that I've seen that want to get sober for this reason or this reason or this reason, or even court, bro, where someone had a bracelet on his ankle, and then as soon as the bracelet was off, it was like off to the races. Boom, gone. So that what is it that you found, the willingness, and where did that willingness come from? If someone was out there that wants to get clean but can't, and feels like he or she cannot get clean, where does that willingness come from?
My whole theory on that, brother, is that I think every addict has to reach a crossroad in their life. And mine came at a cost of just about everything. Okay, and I want, my goal is to stop addicts from getting to the point that I was at. Okay, and this is where addicts have a misconception on how to get clean, when to get clean, where to get clean, is that you can start at any given time. You don't have to have that Hollywood graphic, nasty Dru Hicks story. You can start 2 weeks into your active addiction and start today. It doesn't have to get, because there's a danger in these graphic, nasty stories, such as mine and such as other people have, is that addicts are out there thinking, well, I'm not as bad as Dru Hicks yet. I still got time. Okay. I'm not sticking needles in my neck yet. I probably have some more time. That's horse shit. Okay. And that's dangerous and that's deadly, because at any given moment you're going to get something that you probably shouldn't have. It's going to be game over. Okay. The time is now. Crossroads, put yourself in that crossroad. If you're not at that crossroad, if you think you're not at that crossroad, you can put yourself at that crossroad. And that's the decision to say, I'm done. I'm willing to, and that's where the willingness comes in. When you say I'm done, now you're saying you're willing. Okay. Because I remember I lost it all. I lost it all. It was either get clean or die. Because when I'm 6'1", I weighed 113 pounds when I got clean. Okay. Basically bones are over skin. And I would seriously look in the mirror and thought I looked good. That's where my disease took me. And so I was finally at that crossroad, and we all, I'm a big fan of the gift of desperation, huge fan of that gift. That gift right there. And my gift of desperation came at the end of a 12-gauge shotgun with drug task force surrounding my car. Okay. That was where it was time to go. I was 42, bro. I was 42. I was middle-aged. I didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. I had nothing. I had lost everything materialistic. I lost my children. But I lost the most important things as well. My character, my integrity, my self-worth, the things that we don't think about losing, that we lose. And those are the most important things, because of those, that's what's going to create longevity and recovery. Those spiritual principles that I'm able to apply in my life, and that creates continuously through God in a program, the life that I want to live today and continuously live in the future.
I love that. And I'm actually sponsoring 2 guys right now. And what I've noticed about them is exactly what you were just saying. Like, that crossroads can come at any point, and it's making a decision for yourself. Is like, do we want our lives to go down? Do we want our lives to continue to go down from where they're at now? Or do we want the opportunity to take our lives where we want to go? I've got a sponsee who was at a point very, very close to mine, with the IV drug use and couch hopping or homeless and that kind of stuff. Then I have this other sponsee that hasn't experienced all that stuff yet. Hasn't done IV drug use. He has a job. He in college. All of this, and the thing is his life is improving by stopping using the cocaine and the alcohol and the partying and stuff like that already. And the beautiful thing is I've literally watched both of them experience finding a higher power. And guys, if you're out there and you haven't you haven't thought about this, or if you're struggling to believe or whatever it is, before you need to believe, just be willing to believe that there is something there that is for you, that loves you and wants to see the best for you. And I promise you, he will show up, or it will show up for you in a way that you don't even know how yet. And Dru, what are some things that have happened over the last, because I know that your life has kind of blown up over the last couple of years with these live videos, with these pages and everything. Are there some instances that you can like point and say, that was God?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've experienced a couple really powerful spiritual awakenings during my recovery. I'll tell you, I thought I lost my children forever. Okay. I had thought I lost my children, given the situation of how they were taken from me, with being around a substantial amount of drugs in the house, and I thought I lost my children forever, and through willingness, again, here we go. Okay. Through my willingness to jump through the hoops that I had to jump through, I now have complete custody of my little girls today. I don't care how large my following on social media grows. Having those beautiful little girls in my life today is everything. Without your children, you know what I'm going with this. This is I created these beautiful little girls. And to be able to be present in their life and then to look at me today in admiration and with love and being able to heal them right alongside me, because my disease spilled into their life as well, and so I'm able to heal right alongside them, and we heal together as a family. I have an amazing fiance who's healing right alongside me as well. And that's God, and to see it, for me personally, to say it's anything other than God, that's what that is for me. And I'm able to wrap that a suit of armor around me every morning. I wake up, because it's consistent, brother. And my consistency has really truly gotten me where I'm at today. On days that I didn't want to do this anymore, and we're gonna run into those days, brother. That. Days that I don't want to do this no more. I just want to go back to doing what I always did. And and as sickening as it is to say, we found a comfort in sticking needles in our body. That was our safe spot. That was our comfort zone that we called an active addiction, right? Today, I'm able to step into uncertainty and vulnerability and grow, and grow like I never imagined that I could ever grow. Here I am living this life. 5 years ago, if you'd have said, Dru, you're going to have this, and this, you're going to have your kids back, you're going to have a huge, massive following on social media, people are going to love you from all over the world, you're going to be traveling around the world speaking, sharing hope, brother, I would ask you what you were on, because I want some of it, honestly. It's just, my life today is God. This is God. God pulled me from the depths of hell, brother. And I don't say depths of hell lightly, because that's exactly where I was. I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to die. I just knew I didn't want to live anymore. I was too much of a coward to pull the trigger. So I just stuck with what I've always stuck with. And yeah, brother, my life is an absolute, an example of where this disease will take you and how you can get it and gain it all back.
That's amazing. And guys, I want to thank you so much for being here and hearing this message. Obviously, to close, like Dru was talking about, his life is God now. And guys, if you're out there struggling, I want to tell you right now that he is right on your shoulder, and he is waiting for you to call out to him, and he is there for you. Dru, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today and all the message of hope that you've given to everybody. And guys, we love you so much, and we will talk to you soon. Remember, like, comment, share, so we can send you a shirt. Love you guys. The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live recovered on purpose.